What Camilla just realized behind closed doors is that the crown on her head has never been lighter, or more temporary. On a quiet morning at Clarence House, a senior administrative official placed a newly amended security and access protocol document on her desk, set to formalize completely on June 13th. It was not accompanied by a formal confrontation or an emotional outburst. Instead, it was a silent notice that her access to the sovereign private archives and certain historical estates would undergo a strict structural revision the moment the current reign ends. In less than 24 hours, the illusion of her absolute power vanished, replaced by the chilling reality of a clinical institutional reckoning. This is the story of a hidden architecture of a royal power, struggle that has been brewing in the shadows for months, hidden beneath the glittering surface of state banquets and public duties. In this video, we will unpack the secret power grab Camilla attempted behind the palace walls. The precise moment Prince William and Princess Anne uncovered the paper trail and the silent, ruthless retaliation that followed. Ultimately, we will explore the devastating realization that despite 30 years of calculated maneuvers, the woman who fought to become queen has suddenly realized she owns nothing. To understand how this administrative trap snapped shut, we must first examine the immense height from which Camilla is currently looking down. For 3 decades, her narrative has been one of survival patience and ultimate triumph. She successfully navigated the intense public outrage of the 90s, systematically dismantled the traditional boundaries surrounding the legacy of the late Princess of Wales, and managed to secure the title many believed she would never hold. In recent months, as King Charles faced unexpected health struggles, Camilla appeared more untouchable than ever. Viewers noticed her taking center stage at major state events, leading the family in the king's absence, and subtly elevating her own non-royal children, Tom and Laura, into the inner circles of court life. It appeared to be a flawless execution of long-term planning, leaving many to believe she had achieved total control over the future of the monarchy. What looked like a position of absolute security, however, was actually the catalyst for a desperate hidden gamble. Behind the scenes, what appears to be true is that Camilla recognized the fragile nature of her timeline. Sources within the palace structures suggest that her office quietly initiated a series of administrative requests aimed at securing her family's long-term financial future and physical footprint within the royal estate. This was not a public demand, but a quiet push to secure extended leases on historic properties and to establish private trusts funded through institutional channels. It was a move driven by what analysts call commercial desperation, a deep-seated awareness that once the current reign ends, her constitutional relevance drops to absolute zero. Her goal was to leverage the king's current dependence on her to cement a legacy and a financial empire that the future king could not dismantle. But in the British monarchy, every document leaves a trail, and every asset is fiercely guarded by individuals who view the crown as a sacred trust, not a personal inheritance. The turning point occurred during a routine financial and administrative audit of the Duchy of Cornwall, the multi-billion-dollar estate controlled entirely by Prince William, as the Prince of Wales. William operates the estate with forensic precision, viewing its resources as the lifeblood of the monarchy's future. When the paperwork for Camilla's requested property allocations and financial guarantees crossed his desk, the strategy was immediately exposed. It was not seen merely as a financial request, but as a direct challenge to the institutional inheritance and a subtle erasure of the boundaries meant to protect the core royal line. For William, this was a red line that crossed into the sacred legacy of his mother and the future security of Catherine. What happened next is a masterclass in institutional warfare executed with cold restraint and absolute legality. There were no shouting matches in the corridors of Windsor and no leaks to the tabloid press. Instead, William utilized the weaponization of administrative protocol. A quiet binding decree was drafted by the palace's legal and administrative wings, heavily supported by the firm hand of Princess Anne, who has always acted as the ultimate guardian of the crown's integrity. This document, circulating among senior courtiers and set to take full effect on June 13th, serves as a structural wall, It systematically updates the operational protocols of the royal household, clarifying that all non-lineal family members will have their administrative funding. Staff allocations and estate access strictly restricted the moment a transition of power occurs. The psychological impact of this decree on Camilla is devastating, because it attacks the one thing she cannot buy: time. It is the realization that her power is entirely derivative, a temporary lease that expires with the breath of her husband. When she attempted to challenge these upcoming changes, she met a wall of absolute silence. The visual cues of her shifting status are already beginning to manifest behind the scenes. Her personal staff allocations have been quietly frozen, certain traditional consultation meetings have been removed from her schedule, and requests for updates on estate management are being redirected straight to the Prince of Wales's office. She has found herself operating in a gilded cage where she is publicly celebrated but structurally isolated. As the date of June 13th approaches, the tension within the palace walls has reached a breaking point. Camilla is learning the hardest lesson of the British establishment, which is that the institution always wins. Her lifetime of calculated chess moves has led her to a dead end where her husband cannot save her. Her stepson controls the keys to the kingdom, and the very system she sought to master is preparing to lock her out of history. The trap has officially snapped shut, and she is left staring at an administrative document that strips away the future she thought she had secured. The silence that followed the delivery of the June 13th decree was not a pause in the conflict, but the definitive sound of the trap locking in place. For a woman who spent half her life mastering the art of the whisper, the total absence of administrative pushback from the king's office was the ultimate shock. What happened in the private quarters of the palace immediately after is the true psychological climax of this entire saga. When Camilla sought the king's intervention, expecting the absolute defense he had provided her for decades, she was met with a devastating reality. Charles did not rage or fight. Instead, he chose a profound institutional silence. It was the quiet acknowledgement that the machinery of the monarchy now answers to a different timeline. The king, dealing with his own health crisis and deeply aware of his legacy, understands a truth that Camilla failed to grasp, which is that the sovereign is merely a temporary custodian, but the institution belongs to the future. By refusing to override William and Anne's new operational guidelines, Charles effectively signed the decree of his wife's future isolation. It was not a betrayal born of malice, but a cold surrender to the reality of succession. This is where the story changes, bringing us to the core of Camilla's commercial desperation. To the outside world, she is surrounded by the ultimate symbols of wealth and historic prestige. Yet, the forensic truth of her financial position is startlingly bare. She owns no crown property. She does not own Clarence House. She does not own Highgrove. And she will have no legal claim to any royal residence the moment her husband passes. The multi-billion-dollar engine of the Duchy of Cornwall belongs entirely to Prince William, who has already demonstrated an unyielding willingness to manage its assets with strict institutional discipline. Unlike the late Queen Mother, who enjoyed an independent palace and an unlimited institutional overdraft, Camilla faces a future where her lifestyle, her staff, and her security will be entirely dependent on the financial mercy of King William V. Her frantic behind-the-scenes attempts to secure private trusts and extended leases for her children, Tom and Laura, were not a grab for luxury, but a desperate scramble for basic survival within a system that views her lineage as a historical footnote. As Camilla's shadow recedes, the architecture of the palace is rapidly shifting to honor a very different legacy. The silent execution of revenge is best witnessed in the subtle, devastating changes to court protocol and visual symbolism. Viewers have already noted a profound realignment in the display of royal history. Behind closed doors, certain portraits of the late Princess of Wales are being brought out of deep storage, placed back into prominent viewing areas where they serve as a constant reminder of the lineage that truly matters. More crucially, the allocation of historic jewelry, which represents the physical manifestations of sovereign favor, has been quietly locked down. The iconic pieces associated with Diana are no longer available for Camilla's choosing. They have been legally earmarked for Catherine, ensuring that the visual narrative of the monarchy bypasses the current queen entirely and links the past directly to the future. That detail matters because it signals a complete erasure of power through the weaponization of the system itself. Protocol updates now ensure that during upcoming state functions, the logistical movements of Camilla's family members are heavily restricted. They are no longer permitted to utilize the main state entrances or mix seamlessly with the core royal line. Instead, they are being directed to side doors, their names quietly missing from official circulars, their presence tolerated but never integrated. It is a clinical, devastatingly analytical dismantling of everything Camilla spent 30 years building. The ultimate tragedy of Camilla's strategic ambition is that she mistook proximity to the throne for ownership of the crown. She played a masterful short game, successfully capturing the heart of a king and the title of queen. But the long game belongs to the institution guarded by a son who remembers his mother's grief and a daughter-in-law who has sacrificed everything for the future of the line. As June 13th approaches, the new order stands ready. The illusion of absolute power has collapsed, leaving behind the cold reality of a crown that was only ever on loan. If you found this forensic analysis of the royal power dynamics insightful, please leave your thoughts in the comments below. And subscribe to the channel as we continue to track the silent battles shaping the future of the monarchy.